Hello everybody, it's Courtney, Firefox Studios, and today I am doing another one of my fabulous truck videos. I know everybody loves those. So what I'm doing today though is a not my haul, shawl in the ball haul. None of this yarn is mine. This is actually my friend's yarn and she's letting me show it off. These are colors that I don't have. I've never had any of these colors. They're really pretty. And I wanted to show those to you, but then I wanted to go over like a little review on Shawl and the Ball. So that was suggested by one of my subscribers. Yarn Happens with Marianne, same one that won the last giveaway. She suggested that I do some reviews and stuff, like with the care instructions and all, and like what happened after, you know, how it was when I worked with it, and then like what happened after I, you know, washed it and everything. So I thought that was a great suggestion, so I thought I'd do that for you guys today. And I'm here on my lunch break, so we're gonna get started, and I'm just gonna reach into the bag. It'll be a short haul. I won't show you, like, she got like multiples of all these, but the first one is this beautiful color right here. This is the Peaceful Earth color. So I wanted to show you guys, this is so pretty. This is one of the ones that I'm like super interested in getting for myself, and I think it's because like right now I'm in love with this color green, and it is gorgeous. I mean, I would kind of call that like an avocado green. It's so pretty. I don't want to mess up her balls too much. I don't think she'd appreciate that, but gorgeous color. It's got the browns in it. It goes into like a very light brown, and then it's got the darker and goes into that pretty green. So it is obviously, you know, I think it's gorgeous. So now I'm not normally a brown person, so you know, that says something to me. Maybe not any of you, but to me sure does. So as we've talked about before, Lion Brand Shawl on the Ball is a size 4 is what they say, and I'm one of those. I don't agree with that, because if you look at that little piece that's hanging up right there, because I'm not going to pull her stuff apart, but it is small. To me, it's like a 2, you know, I would say, but it's fuzzy. So I don't know if you guys can see that in the camera, like how well that's focusing and showing, but it is got a fuzziness to it. So gorgeous color, love this one, and we'll talk about what I think about working with it in just a moment. I'm going to show you another one right over here. Dig down into the bag, and then here's this one. So this one is gorgeous too. So this is the Shawl in a Ball still, but it's the Shawl in a Cake is what they call it. And the Shawl in the Cake is same exact yardage. It's 481 yards, just like the you know, original Shawl in the Ball. But look at the size difference because of the way it's wound. Hopefully, guys, there's enough room for y'all to see. This right here takes up so much less in space to me, and like me living the way that I do in the little tiny house, this is a huge space saver. And you know, I can stack these on my shelf and stuff. So I do think like in the future I will probably, when I, you know, have some more room, we'll probably get these, because I mean there's no difference in them. It's the same exact yarn, it's just wound different. But going back to this one, the color on it is Half Moon. Really pretty pinks and purples. Hopefully you guys can see that really well. So like I said, they say a size 4. I say more like a 2. Like, it's smaller than a 3. I mean, I can't agree with that's a 4. I just can't. but Half Moon, gorgeous color, 481 yards, which is 440 meters for those of you who, you know, measure it that way. And these little cakes weigh 5.3 ounces, 150 grams. So it's, you know, maybe it's some people call this a gimmick when they roll it up in a cake. You know, maybe it is, but as far as like storage wise, like you're not losing any yardage. So, I mean, these, and they'll stack, you know, so I mean, these are awesome. So that's that color. And then here is another color. Let me dig in this bag. I don't want to like yank on the yarn, and I'm trying not to like look down a whole bunch, but here we go. Here's this color. I love this one. And I didn't think, looking at this on the website, I did not think that I would love this one that much, but I really do. So again, same thing, shawl and cake, and same yardage, 481 yards. And this color is called Crown Jewels. Gorgeous. I mean, this, and I see that because it's the jewel tone, and I hope that is showing up for you guys. I mean, it's got the greens, like an avocado green, like a bright avocado, I would say. And then it's got some turquoise, look at that. And then it's got the purples, like the jewel tone purple. And then it's got this like reddish, it's, you know, but it's not like red. It's almost got like a pink tone to it. Like maybe I would call that, oh, like a berry red. I mean, it's a berry color, so it's not quite red, it's not quite purple, it's not quite pink, and then it goes back into like a brown, and I would kind of say like a garnet more is probably what I would say. And I love it. I absolutely love it. 100%. Cannot say one bad thing about this color. Which is probably true with like all the shawl and the balls. But I am going to tell you guys a little bit about what I think working with it. And I've worked with it, you know, quite a few times. And y'all know I have some things like a tutorial for a shawl and the ball, kimono cardigan and all. So let's talk about when you work with it. This is the very first thing that I ever made working with shawl and ball. I had picked this up, this color, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the color was, but it's really pretty. It's just blues and everything. I probably could have told you if I wasn't trying to think so hard. But this thing is, I love it. It's one of my favorite things to wear. You've probably seen it in a couple videos now, spaced out over time, because I do, as the winter months hit, I wear this. And it's super warm. But my very first time ever working with it, I went with the recommended hook size, which I'm going to pull that out and tell y'all. So the recommended crochet hook size is the J 10 millimeter or J10 6 millimeter hook. And actually, now that I think about it, I may have went with like a 5 millimeter hook on this. Kind of remembering back, I think I did use a 5. 6 millimeter is definitely better to use with this because you don't like accidentally grab up some of this fuzz. When you grab up the fuzz and you're working with it and crocheting tightly, like obviously I crocheted very tightly when I was making this. So here was the thing. This was also one of the first triangular, because you see it comes to the point, like shawls that I'd ever made. And so originally, you know, I had made a few little mistakes and I was frogging it. And being that I crochet tightly and used a small hook for this anyway, and I wasn't experienced with it, when I went to frog it, like I was having a hard time. All of this little fuzziness that is in these shawl and the balls, it was kind of like almost had matted on itself. So what it did for me is when I was trying to frog it, it was tangled. All the fuzz was tangled on itself. So I was having to kind of like pull and be like careful not to like break the yarn, which this is not like super easy to break or anything, but I hadn't worked with it before. So I didn't know that at the time. So I was, you know, pulling it out and I was like, oh my God, I hate this yarn. That was my initial on this. I absolutely 100% hated the yarn. And I was like, I'm never buying this again. I'm never going to get this again, yada, yada, yada. Well, I had bought several balls of it. It was on sale at the store I went to. And so I 100% had more of it to use, and I didn't touch it for a very long time. Like years, because this, while I fought through it and I finished it, I just was like, oh, I hate working with this. It was hard for me to see the stitches and everything, so I hated it. Well then, over time, I was making some other things and doing them as gifts, and I decided to use the yarn again, give it another try. So I know that the first few things I did, I still went with a 5 millimeter hook, but I didn't crochet as tightly. And that made me like it better, because when I did make a mistake, it wasn't a huge issue to frog back a little bit. So crocheting super tight and being inexperienced, I made it a mess the first time, but then the next few times I used it, I got more used to it. And then after that, I learned 6.5 millimeter, 6 millimeter hook. Like they do suggest the 6 millimeter on here. It was much easier to work with. It makes a looser stitch and all, but if you do make a mistake and you have to frog back, it's easy. It's totally easy. So do say that is like a good thing with this. Use a larger hook size. I think I've used all the way up to like a 7 millimeter hook, which is like, I think that's a UK size, but I found it at Hobby Lobby, you know, and got one 40% off or something like that. So now let's talk about the care instructions. On here, it says that you can machine wash it, and it's on gentle and lay flat to dry. Guess what I didn't do? None of that. I did absolutely none of that. And as you could tell, the result of that wasn't too bad, though. I don't think it ruined the piece. If you take a look, hopefully it's going to focus where you guys can see. Hello. This is kind of matted together because of the fuzz. Kind of. Do you see that? Can you see that? Let me see if I can make it focus. No, I guess it's going to autofocus, but hopefully y'all can see that. And you can see that it's kind of matted up, so you don't really see these individual stitches as well anymore. But on this piece, that totally works. There's like not a problem with that. It's the granny style, you know, not granny square, but it's granny style stitch, you know, 3 double crochets all together, making, you know, this. So I washed it not on gentle, just like it was probably first time I ever washed it. It probably went in with like a load of jeans or something. Terrible about reading the care instructions. And so it was washed, you know, probably heavy duty, nothing less than a regular, you know, wash cycle. I'm positive I use cold water because I always wash in cold water. It's kind of like certain things I will like use hot water, but for the most part, my main wash that something like this would go into would be in a cold wash, regular to heavy duty setting, and then throw it in the dryer. And throwing it in the dryer, I can tell you for sure, I would have thrown it in on regular heat, you know, nothing special, and I dried it. And this thing, I've had it now for several years, and it's been washed over and over and over and dried the same way, and this is how it ended up. So I don't think it's the worst. I mean, I really hope y'all can see that. I don't think it's the worst thing. I don't mind it at all. Some of you, in some things, you might not want it to mat up like that. And maybe it wouldn't if you were doing, like the kimono is real like spread out, but you have those like clusters. So the cluster stitches, those might kind of like mat up a little bit and become a little more solid looking, which wouldn't be a bad thing for that. It doesn't have a lot of like halo of fuzz still, which I'm totally fine with that. It is still soft. I think it feels good. I don't see any problem with what I did. Like some people have been like, but I don't see a problem with it. So overall, like I definitely now am a huge fan of Shawl and Ball. And everything, I do have some other things made with it, and all have been treated the same way. I know the kimono, now that we've moved, we don't always go to like, you know, a standard washer. We don't have a wash house yet with like a washer and dryer in it. I take things either to my mom's or to a laundromat, or I have a little small portable washer, which is like an RV washer. So it just slings stuff out. It doesn't actually dry, and then you hang things to dry. So, and it's much more gentle, and it doesn't have an agitator in there, which my one at my old house, it didn't have an agitator in it anyway. It was like a front loader. But this prior to that had definitely been washed in one that had an agitator. So, I mean, I've given this thing the roughest treatment ever is what I'm trying to say. Like, no thought in mind at all. But now my kimono that I wear and that I love, I do treat that like, because I guess, you know, because it's like one of my very favorite things. I do wash that in like the little RV washer on, the cycle is not, that is not like a rough thing. Like there's no such thing as a heavy duty cycle on one of those little RV washers. So, I've been a lot more careful with that one. And then, of course, it just slings it out. It doesn't really go into a dryer. I do believe that it made it into the dryer one time at my mom's by mistake, like I had thrown it in. But I wash that in a garment bag just because there's a lot of stitch work and like there's the, what do I want to call it? Where I'm chaining in between and there's a lot of holes in the one that's made in the shawl ball. I don't want something to get in there and like rip it or stretch it really bad. So I put it in a garment bag, throw it in the washer. And like I said, I do think it made it in, if I remember right, one time into the dryer. Nothing happened. I mean, this has been a lot of going into the dryer, a lot of abusing it. So I've been more careful, so I haven't had the same effect on the kimono with, still washing it in a washer, and I would consider it probably more of a gentle cycle, slinging it out, hanging it to dry, occasionally putting it in the dryer, or at least one time. So I don't think that if you were to wash it regular, I think the dryer is what did this to it, and the high heat in the dryer. I think that is what made it kind of mat up and the stitches kind of all became one. I can still pull them apart. It's not like they're fused completely, but just the general look of it is kind of fuzzed it down and softened it over itself. So they look like, they look solid. So that's what I'd say about that. I think that you can be in that, like the ones with like the metallic in it. And that's why I was more careful with the one, besides loving it, is the Moonstone was the color that I'd used on my kimono. I have metallic running through that one because that's one of the ones that has the metallic in it. So I was just more careful just because I know the metallic, it could break. It could snap, because it's not like a, I forget what they call it, of course. But it's not like the same type of fiber like this is. So that's what I would say about it. It is, I've been more gentle with the other one. And I do notice some of the fuzzing and stuff on that, but it's not severe. And it's held up really well. So probably either way you go, to me, this is not a problem how this has ended up looking. So, I like it and it works great. And I don't think the kimono would be ruined if it fuzzed up quite a bit more and some of the stitches started looking more solid, because I think that it would just kind of add some interest to the piece. And I don't think that it would be so severe that you wouldn't be able to see that lacework or anything. It's so open. There's no way to like do that, make it all fused together. So that's my review. That's kind of like my experience with working with it and my experience from, my stupidity of just throwing this in the dryer and everything. So I think that you can get away with it. I don't think it's a problem. Some things I would say, yeah, lay flat to dry. I know that's one thing I haven't laid the kimono flat to dry. I hung it up and, let it air dry the rest of the way. I can say that for sure. I don't have a place to lay something flat to dry for a long period of time. So, I say you can get away with it, at least with Shawl on the Ball. I say that it's not a problem. But if you are wanting to avoid something like this that's happened with this thing, then, you can hang it. I don't see a reason to lay it flat to dry, but lay it flat to dry, hang it up. The wash cycle didn't really make a big difference on it. The more lacier pieces that you might do with that yarn, definitely put them in a garment bag would be my suggestion, just so other things like a button from a pair of jeans can't get in there and rip it apart or something, because the yarn's not indestructible as much as we'd like it to be. It can be caught and torn, especially if your machine has an agitator, or if you've got it in there, like if something were to slip in by mistake, it could get torn. So just try to be careful on that. But hopefully this has been helpful and informative to you guys, and hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks for watching. Bye.